This is the High Impact Leadership Podcast.
Bringing vision into action.
Josh Veneta is a leadership and business growth coach.
I decided that I wanted to have a bigger impact.
Fueled by helping individuals and organizations thrive.
Engaged with a new passion.
Josh is a proven business leader.
To help others succeed.
Over 15 years experience in helping organizations put vision into action.
Where we provide tools and wisdom that help leaders and their organizations to thrive.
Strategy. Consistent execution. Leadership.
That's what coaching actually is. It's an unlocking of what's already there.
This is the High Impact Leadership Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of High Impact, a podcast for leaders. My name's Josh Veneta, strategic advisor and leadership team coach. And today I'm joined by Luca Paris. Luca is the president and chief executive officer of the Greater Monadnock Collaborative in New Hampshire. When asked why he changed careers as an accomplished and award-winning restaurateur and chef, he said, "I saw the potential and the incredible community connections that we could create through GMC and wanted to make New Hampshire's Monadnock region a beacon for the next generation of entrepreneurs and business leaders. This isn't a career change. It's a calling that spoke to me as I was working for how to do more in our community," he said. Since September of 2021, Luca has been the president and CEO of the Greater Monadnock Collaborative and has ushered in a new age of connection, communication, and collaboration for the Monadnock region community. He, along with an incredible team, have made strides in regional marketing and local marketing to bring awareness to the entire region as a cultural and industrial hotspot. He has recently been recognized in the New Hampshire 200 for 2023 by the New Hampshire Business Review as one of New Hampshire's 200 most influential leaders. Luca, welcome to the podcast. We're honored to have you here today.
That guy's impressive. I want to meet him. I don't know if that's me, but thanks, man. I really enjoy being here and talking about this. And the idea of what we can do as a collaborative is so big. So we'll get right into it and ask away. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for this, Josh.
Yeah, of course. So Luca and I have actually done business together for one of my other businesses, and I have seen firsthand that he is a mover, a shaker, and connector. So I can actually lend credibility to that bio. So Luca, one of the things that as I was preparing for this, that I didn't know about you, that I've since learned about your restaurant career was the force you were. There was an article in it was Inc., I believe.
Inc. magazine, yeah.
Yeah, and it talks about some of the work that you did in COVID. It was basically like, hey, this is a refuse to lose, and we're going to find ways to work together and win. I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about that story.
I think it goes back. So I've been in the Monadnock region, which is in New Hampshire, for the last 24 years. And 20 years ago, I moved from New York to open up a restaurant in Keene, New Hampshire. This was the dream place. And I'm going to take one digression off of here and go, there isn't a kid that grows up when he's 14, 15, 18 years old and go, when I grow up, I want to be the president of a chamber of commerce. No one's ever said that in their life. This is just something you fall into. It's like I said, a calling. But I did want to be a restaurateur and chef my whole life. And since my first job, that's all I ever did. That's all I ever wanted. And when I got to an age in my 30s and I wanted to live a life and still own a restaurant, Keene, New Hampshire seemed like the place to be. So putting that aside, so for 20 years doing great in the town and got to really well known, became chef of the year in the state, yada yada, a lot of great accolades along the way. Then 2020 hits and we hit COVID. That's my 20-year anniversary as a restaurant in New Hampshire. And boy, did it hit hard. I mean, March 16th, I still remember the day they shut down the restaurants, and we walked in there every day not knowing what was going to happen next. I mean, the not knowing was the hardest part, right? We didn't know there was government aid coming. We didn't know there was state aid coming. We didn't know there were opportunities to shut down and get money just sent to you for no reason. Which I don't do that well, but I had a mentality, and I grew up with, we moved here from Italy when I was a baby. So my dad always felt like you make your life, you make your career, you make your life, you do whatever success happens was because of what you put into it. And one of the things that happened when COVID hit, I woke up and I said, we need to make sure that it's like nobody left behind, no restaurant left behind, no retail left behind. So I started right away on the first week on Wednesdays, creating a restaurant Zoom group. And we would have people from the state, people from the area, and political people and then people who understood what we were going through and kind of talking to us about what we were dealing with because we were shut down, but we were essential. So we had to be open as restaurants, right? And some businesses had to stay open. And what happened was from that, other things started happening. We did videos about what we were doing to stay open. Other restaurants started following. The craziest thing that happened on day one is we all knew what a toilet paper shortage we were having. And I probably bought 5 cases of toilet paper leading up to that, not knowing. And I've said, if all else fails, we have a lot of toilet paper. So what I started doing was actually putting them in bags. People were doing a lot of to-goes from us. And we would take the toilet paper and I put a Luca sticker on it. And it was 1-ply. It wasn't even that good. Let me tell you, I bought the cheapest one out there. We put a Luca sticker, so I had the sticker of my restaurant, and then on it, I hand wrote on every toilet paper, "We got your back, dot 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 side." So it's kind of like and that the idea, so we had to concentrate on making sure that we all stayed in business together, but we also had to take some moments to make people smile. The funny part about the whole toilet paper thing is that from the moment I started it to the moment I ended it, the most social media posts and food are my food in plastic containers with a roll of toilet paper next to it. They
Wow.
started ending up everywhere, right? So this kind of built up, and we started this trend. My restaurant kind of became the hub of where people ask questions. Other restaurants had called me and said, "Luca, what do I do?" A good friend of mine who owns Tempesta's, Jimmy Tempesta. He calls me up. He goes, "I want to close. I don't know what to do." I said, "Jimmy, we can't close. We have to be here for everybody." And I talked him through that, and he actually grew during his business doubled during COVID. Our business increased tremendously, but then we got involved with other businesses. A good friend of mine, Ted McGreer, owns a shoe place down the side. We started doing videos back and forth. We started getting involved with other businesses and say, how do we raise awareness and funds? And that all led up to I have a nonprofit organization that I run that helps kids getting into culinary arts. I started taking money from that, buying gift cards from all restaurants in the area, and then handing them out to people and saying, please take this $20 gift card to, Elm City Brew Pub and make sure you go there and spend 3 times more because they need it, that kind of thing. Um, Tens of thousands of dollars were raised because of that. It was really about saying we're not gonna leave anybody behind, and we're gonna do whatever we can to help all the other businesses do well, and in turn, it helped us do well as well.
Mm.
So it was quite a time. I mean, scariest part is not knowing, but the easiest part was saying that's not going to stop us. And all the pivots and all the movements and the daily changes and whatever, uh, it are things that we were doing as a business forever. And Josh, when you talk to people in business, COVID just hyper focused that idea of how you do things. But if you're not doing that in business from a year to year basis or a cycle to cycle basis, then you're going to fail. And we hyper focus it within 1 year. We changed 10 different business models. It was really incredible. And we did it as a community. So that was exciting.
What a great story. There's two things I want to tease out there. The first one is I love what you said because I was still running a business, a different business unit at the time of COVID. So I'm familiar with what you're talking about. I hadn't formed my coaching practice yet. And I'm just curious from your perspective, what gave you the courage to just not get consumed by not knowing? Because, I found on a daily basis. One of the big jobs for me as a leader in the business I was running, we had about 80 employees in the organization that I was running. And the biggest challenge was that the not knowing, and it was for the leader to be the non-anxious presence. So what were some things as you think back, like how were you able to remain that non-anxious presence? And not only were you not anxious, you were an opportunity seeker. I'm just curious
Right.
what some of the things going through your mind then.
Well, the fear of so I don't have a fear of success. I have a fear of failure.
Okay.
So I never want to fail. So it doesn't matter for what it is, whether it's because the economy has a downturn or we're not doing the right thing. It's just it also I maybe if I think back hard enough, and then with that kind of 2020 hindsight, which is a weird number to use, but the 2020 hindsight,
Mhm.
it was also about taking care of people. I don't think I concentrated on the business as much, and I think it's going to kind of talk into how we segue into our next part of our conversation. Is my business model was never to make money; it was to make people happy. So, how do you do that in a time where everybody is concerned?
Yeah.
People are worried, right? So, I think I'm in a business in the hospitality industry, that's our goal is either to entertain you or make you happy or be part of your memories, all those things combined. So it was easy for me to go, we're not giving up. We're going to stress. This is where we go next. And then it was the momentum that happened behind it with other business owners really helped as well. I think if everyone around me just gave up, it would be hard to keep doing, go forward. But I had, part of that is how I grew up. My dad always moved forward, and no matter what he was doing, he didn't speak English when we came here. I grew up in a family that he had to speak English at home so he could learn it. When he went to work, he never was able to do. And I took a lot of that growing up, and I didn't realize it till this something like this happened. And at my age now, looking back on my life, going, man, that's exactly what drove me is just look forward. And they say this when you're climbing a mountain, or if you're in the military, or if you're in anything, if you look at the mountain, you're never going to climb it. If you think in your 3 foot box ahead of you, that's what's going to work. And sometimes you have to. That's what's that next 3 feet ahead of me? What's that next week look like? And that's what we kept doing. And then be able to adapt to those changes was the easiest thing once your mentality wasn't, oh my God, we can't handle this. It was, hey, let's just see what's coming up next and we'll handle the next thing that comes at us. And
Mhm.
do it with fun and excitement. And I just on my Facebook today, a memory came up of me giving out when we started getting out of COVID and there was bowling involved. If people could go out bowling again, we were putting little coupons to go bowling for free in our bags when we were doing to go. So it's that little thing. And I was doing the video with the guy who was running the bowling. Like I just saw it today as before we got on. So that was it. And then that excitement just kind of bubbled. And then seeing what other people are doing. I mean, it was an easy thing to keep going. It was easier to keep going than not for me. I
Mhm.
think that's the most important thing.
Jim Collins in his book Good to Great, he talks about the flywheel concept.
Hmm.
Where there's just momentum. It's almost like a snowball effect,
Yep.
and you just keep going
Yep.
and going and going. I think you kind of just shared a story in which that's exactly what you experienced. Was you had some incredible momentum and it was just growing and growing and growing. And so you answered my second question, which was going to be, how did you stay so focused on the opportunity? But I think you did a good job answering that. So good. Uh, there's a distinction. You had emailed me after one of our other podcasts and said, "Hey, this is I enjoyed listening to the podcast, and I'd love to be a guest sometime." And
Yep.
there's this distinction I'd really like to tease out. So I want to give you the opportunity to do that. What is this distinction that you emailed me about? Share with everyone else.
So if it's the right one, it's hospitality versus service, right?
Yep.
This is what we talk about. So I, I have to tell you that when I grew up wanting to be in the restaurant business, I realized early on it was about you have to realize what you do as a business, and I'm sure as a coach you tell people this all the time, or you'll read about it in books too, is understand what your business does. Now, your business doesn't matter what you do as a business. The underlying part of it is that you're taking care of people. Unless your organization is building something that's doing that, I don't even have the concept for, but let's stick with the hospitality industry and the restaurant business. Our model is all about making people happy. It is not about food. It is not about service. It's not about ambiance. It's creating memories. So, my first handbook 20 years ago, and even before that, when I had a deli in the Bronx, my first mentality was, how do we make people happy? Hospitality versus service. Service are a step of, or a list of steps of things you do that create good service. When you come to my restaurant, someone greets you right away and says hello. That's a step of service. Someone brings you to the table. Someone tells you about the recommendations or specials, depending what you call them. Someone takes your order. Someone does it in a timely fashion, checks on your water, checks on your bread, make sure you have silverware. I have a list of a step of services that you should follow if you work with me. Now, those are important because that'll give you good service. But, and I'll put it out there this way, there are 3-star Michelin restaurants out in the world that have the best, I mean, the highest quality service you could ever find. White glove, one person per person. They bring out stuff, fits perfectly at the table. Nothing is dirty. Perfect service. Hospitality is the way you make people feel. It's a whole different mentality.
Mm.
And one of the things I did when I opened the restaurant is I put a list of words. I call them my dirty word list at the restaurant, and they're not what you think. It's calling yourself a server or a waiter. It's asking someone if they're done with that, or you're done working on that. These list of phrases and words that really the mentality behind it was service. And that's nothing's wrong with that. But I put at the bottom of the list, I said, treat everybody like if they were coming to your home and you wanted them to have a great time. That is hospitality. There is nothing that takes the place of being welcomed when you walk into a place. Now, restaurants are easy. We're built for that. How that transfers to all businesses, it makes sense. A really good bank in the area understands that, yes, their business is banking, but what are they doing? They're taking care of people on a level that the people don't even understand. There's a power of being, you're entrusting someone with your money, every dime you've had, or entrusting them that you're going to get a loan or this or that. But if you walk into that bank and they're so welcoming and they take care of you, and even when they can't do something you want, they're explaining it in a way that helps you understand, that's hospitality.
Mhm.
That's caring about people. You're making them feel a certain way. And that's the mentality I bring towards everything we do. So whether it's now at the chamber, or whether it's the restaurant, or, again, I bring up a great friend of mine who is someone that's my partner in crime in this area. We both had a place on Main Street forever. Is Ted from Ted Shoe and Sport. He sells sneakers, but he doesn't sell sneakers. He sells an experience that you walk out that door with, and you're taken care of, and you want to go back, whether it's $10 more than what you get online or not. It doesn't matter. It's the quality of the hospitality that you get. So I think some people mix those two up, and you don't need steps of service to be able to take care of someone.
Wow, there's so much there. I mean, we could spend the rest of the day talking about that, but I love that. Um, and you're so right. I think back to the organizations that I've led, and I think even to my own coaching practice, I'm on a mission to help other human beings be fully alive. And that means, financial freedom. It means that they have freedom of time. They know how to manage their organizations well and have thriving organizations. And that means that they can enjoy a bunch of other things beyond the two things that I just mentioned. And so when people say, what do you do? It's not, going in and whatever you think being a coach would be like. It's no, I'm
Right.
actually helping someone to thrive and to live their best life.
And that's it. Once you figure that out, it allows you to always, your mindset about your business, it kind of goes back to our original conversation about COVID. When I realized what my business model was as a business, which was to take care of people and create memories, well, then even through COVID, we can do those two things. It's not about the food or the special plate. Everything was coming in a plastic container, and I dumbed down the food to make it easier to eat later. It was about the experience, right? And that goes back to that stems from that word hospitality. It stems from the mentality of a business owner or a business leader understanding what they do. And it translates to the team you work with too. I think hospitality doesn't only go to your end user or the person paying you, it's the team you're working with to create that atmosphere or create that environment to work in. I think we forget about that a lot of times. And then, like to your point, is you've had, I bet how many business owners have talked to you and go, I can never leave. I always have to be part of this. I have to run the whole thing. Well, you have a staff of 20 people. I know, but I can't trust them to do it. Well, you have to create that team that's going to create the hospitality that follows what your model is, and even makes you better. Right? There's so much in that level, but it all starts with how we envision or how we present ourselves in taking care of others.
How did you find with relationship to the team building point? I think what you've clearly articulated is you had singularity of purpose. So
Mhm.
anyone who was coming to work at your restaurant at that time, they weren't confused about what you were trying to do. You were trying to help people make memories and, the
Yeah.
things all those things you've just described. And so, um, how did you find it building a team as a result of having a very singular purpose and something that wasn't just like, I want to make a 40% margin on my food and beverage or something like that?
Right.
Like, just talk a little
Well,
bit.
I think it goes back to, and it's funny. I use the line that since I've been a teenager, I never worried about making money, and it sounds really weird, right? You go to something like, I'm not worried about making money. I'll always have money. It'll come to me. And honestly, I'm in my 50s now, Josh, and I have never worried a day about money in my life. And not because I'm wildly successful. Remember, everybody remember who's listening. I'm in the restaurant business, so there's no such thing as wildly successful restaurant business unless you're a chain or if you're a huge restaurant or you're in a big city. So small town, mom and pop places do well, but not to that level. So it's that single focus is about sharing that every day and being the example of what you want to do. Now, the worst thing I could do is have this conversation with you and say it's all about hospitality, and that's the only thing that matters, and taking care of people, and then you'll be successful. And then you walk into my restaurant and you meet me, and I'm like, ah, yeah, you know what? I'm too busy to handle you. You know what I mean? You have to be the experience. I was the person at the front of the door all the time if I wasn't in the kitchen. I was the person that was checking on everybody to the point that they all saw that, and it was training every single day. And there's no do it today and then not do it tomorrow, or show them during training and then hopefully they do it. It was every moment of every day. There's no let up. So if you're going to be that face of who you believe you are, you have to live it all day. It's not an act. It's not something you could turn on and off. You have to live what you believe. So that was the easy part. Getting people to think that way all the time, that was tough, right? And that weeds itself out. If someone didn't believe in it, they didn't follow.
Yeah.
So they moved on. But during COVID, what was incredible is the only people that didn't work when we were open were people that had major concerns about working around people. They kept their job. They were able to come back when we were done. But I said to them, if you want hours, I'm going to make hours for you, and we're going to make this happen together. And the other part of that is you brought up saying, staying positive and being that kind of beacon. Also, be honest with everybody. I was scared to death every day. I did not know what was going to happen. I said that right out. I said, but we're not going to let that stop us, and enlist them and motivate them to become part of the answer. And there's a video online that I'll send you that kind of speaks to that. A documentary person came in and interviewed our team afterwards, and it was really incredible to see what they were doing, how they explained what we went through.
Wow.
Because I didn't, we went through it together, but I didn't understand what they were going through. And one of my
Mm.
wait staff was like, I came in every day, and Luca changed everything every day, and every day the this would be here. It was scary, and but they got through it, and they were more positive for it. So yeah, it's being you have to be a leader. I hate that, I dislike the word manager, or whatever, but you have to be a leader, and get the rest of your team to be their own leaders in light of that. So man, I go off on tangents, Josh. I'm sorry.
No, this was so good. I know our listeners are going to be better off from hearing from you today. There's just so much goodness in here. And I usually listen to these things and say to myself, well, I always try to I have a rule of one. So anytime I listen to a podcast or I'm reading a book or something, like I just focus on like trying to get one idea, and
Yep.
take one idea. And if I can get 1% better in all those individual areas, like it's going to be really good. And I think that there's quite a few to think about, which I'm going to take away with me from on this one. So, well, Luca, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us on the podcast. Tremendous information. Your story is remarkable, and just keep leading well. I mean, you're living it, man, and it's so cool to see. So, if somebody wanted to learn more about GMC, how could they do that?
So you go to greatermonadnock.com. We're the Greater Monadnock Collaborative. It's a regional chamber of commerce. I took over the old chamber of commerce, and then that segues to that last part of it. Is I saw what I wanted this organization to be. I didn't know I was done with the restaurant industry until this came up, and saw this as my calling. Gosh, I haven't worked a day in my life, uh, honestly. Even the restaurant business is the hardest thing most people can do. I've loved every minute of it. I've loved being there and taking care of people, and the memories and everything. And when this opportunity came up, in a discussion, I said, I could see what a chamber of commerce really means for a community. And we are at the forefront of promoting the Monadnock region, promoting our businesses to each other, and just finding ways for people to, my three words: connect, communicate, collaborate. And if you do one of those three every day, whether you're with the chamber, or you're with your organization, or anybody's business, you've lived what you're supposed to be doing. So, and then that creates the next memory, that creates the next collaboration, and that creates our future as business leaders. So I'll keep doing it. If you want to get in touch with me, greatermonadnock.com, and then my first name, Luca, to email me. But I would love to talk more about what we do. And if people are in the area that are listening, that's great. If you're from outside of the area, I love talking about business. So be happy to catch up with anybody.
Awesome. And you can send over that documentary, and we will also include the article in ink about you and Ted, and
Excellent.
what you guys did. We'll include those in the show notes. So thanks so much, Luca, and thanks to all of you for listening to another episode of High Impact Podcast for Leaders. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another guest. Thanks.